Welcome back to the cave. My name is Jesse Dan-Yusuf. Woo! And today I'm going to be sharing my testimony. I'm going to be sharing about why I follow Jesus and why, just my story in general. I'm just going to be telling why Jesus, why I follow Jesus, and my journey so far. And welcome to the cave. If you're new here, the cave is a space of refuge. It is a space of learning, mentoring, mastery, where I'm sharing stories, insights from every sphere of my interest. And I just want to share, things I'm passionate about so that men like me can grow up into everything that God has called them to be. So again, welcome to the cave. In a few days' time, I will be turning 33. I was born on the 31st of January 1991 in a town called Warri in Delta State. My father went to work in Delta State some 30 plus years ago. He met my mother and they had me. They moved back to Jos. I think he got a job in Kano, Nigeria, but he moved his family back to Jos. Then my mother had my sister, my younger sister, who is married now with two kids. I grew up in Jos. I'm originally from Plateau State. I said originally, like I'm from Plateau State. I am Angas by tribe. We are about 1 million people, I think, or less, that speak Angas. I'm what they call, I'm part of a tribe they call the minority group. I actually don't like that term. Yeah, but my mom was from Delta State, Isoko by tribe. And I'm like a full Nigerian, being part of the north and part of the south of Nigeria. My wife also is an amalgamation of, different parts of the country. She's half Yoruba, half Idoma. There's Igbo somewhere there. My daughter is a cocktail of Nigeria. Genes are. Yeah, so back to my story. I grew up in Jos. I loved Jos so much. I loved the weather. I loved the people. I loved meeting my family. Education was beautiful. Anybody that grew up in Jos would tell you, like, listen, I actually loved growing up in Jos. Jos was a beautiful place. It is still a beautiful place. Unfortunately, the crisis in Jos, the ethno-religious crisis in Jos has been really disastrous to the town. But it's one of the best things that's happened to me, honestly, just growing up in Jos. Yeah, and I made lifelong friends from there, from primary school till now. Primary school in Jos, secondary school in Jos, or high school, as some people call it. University, I did not want to go to Jos because I had spent, 16, 17 years in Jos. I wanted to go out, but the course I wanted to study at the time, only two universities when I applied were hosting that course, which was information technology. It was ATBU Bauchi and I think Babcock University. I tried going to Babcock, but there was no way I was going to. On coming from the secondary school I was coming from, which was Command Secondary School, I did not want to go back to another, what I thought was a boarding school. I did not want to go back there. So I chose ATBU and I almost regretted going to ATBU because it was nothing like what I thought it was. I had seen, don't laugh at me. My father had he went for a trip in Bauchi and he came back just with stories of how much Bauchi has blossomed under the new governor. There's constant light, electricity. He shared some pictures with us. I saw him. I knew he did something in the university there, but I did not know what it was. I saw pictures of him with a white guy and computers. And I automatically assumed that, I just assumed that that was the university, and I was like, I'm going there. Everybody will be asking me, guy, why are you going to Bauchi? And please, no diss to anybody from Bauchi, but I was like, you guys don't understand. I went to Bauchi, and my goodness, Bauchi, for those who don't know, is it's a conservative part of Nigeria. It's mostly Muslim, and my goodness, I did not like schooling there. But it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. It was in that place I met God. It was in that place I met, I made friends it was in that same place I met, friends who are my best friends now. And I learned a lot. going to a federal university, anybody will complain. But Bauchi did not have the social life that I was thinking a place like Jos had or any other part of the country had. And I just hated it. I hated it because I was not born again. I was not born again. So I wanted to do what university students are doing. I wanted to, meet girls. I wanted to party all the time. I wanted to, flex. But none of that was in Bauchi. I mean, there was that, but I felt coming from Jos, I just like, what's this? Do you understand? I had this, I'm a Jos boy type of thing. Like everything's beneath me, my guy. So I just said, I was going to face my books. And I tried to do that, but I just kept on hating the school. And I think my disposition towards the school and academics really affected my results. I did not graduate with what I wanted. And it was all of that. But even that's okay on the education side. But yeah, that's about Bauchi. But yeah, even growing up in Jos, I told you my mom was from Delta, but she passed when I was 5 and my sister was 3. I can still remember my mother. I can still remember her very well. I can remember the day she traveled. It was a Thursday. I was 5. Don't ask me how I remember this. I think my brain has refused to forget that. It was a Thursday. I remember my sister and I crying as she had just given birth to my baby brother, Naphtali. She said she wanted to go to show her parents her baby and she'll come back. We were crying, don't go, don't go. I still remember very well. Next thing I know, one day, we're having a siesta. I wake up, there's lots of noise in the house. This is 1996. I see my aunt, who doesn't usually come to the house, and she asks me, do you want tea? And I said, yes. And as she goes to make tea, I peep. And I see my father, who is supposed to be in Kano. He's in the living room on the floor. He's bawling his eyes out. He's crying. His bag hasn't even left his neck. I can still remember the clothes he was wearing very well. It was kind of like this tie and dye danshiki type of thing. He's bawling. He sees me. He calls me, Nenrot, come. And people are saying, no, take him away. And I'm like, what's happening? My sister wakes up. They say, take them upstairs, take them upstairs. We go to our neighbor's house. The children are looking at us funny. That was when I watched RoboCop. I can still remember very well. We are watching RoboCop and our friends, our neighbors are looking at us weird. Nobody's telling us anything. The next thing I can remember is driving into my primary school. Now, my primary school is called St. Parents Primary School in Jos, and it's an Anglican school. The church is in the school, but the church also has a burial ground. I remember driving into the school. As a pupil, I've seen that several times where, there is a burial going on. They don't let us go out. Even if it's break time, they don't let us go out. So it was weird that I was the one experiencing this. Listen, I can still see this as I was 5. I can remember we were in Uncle Shagun's car. My sister is still sleeping because she's 3 and she's sleeping. She doesn't have a clue what's happening. Okay, before then, we go to the mortuary and they're going around the bodies. And I see 2 coffins. I see a white coffin, 2 white coffins, my mother's and my baby brother. But I'm looking and my mother is slim, or she was slim. And I'm looking, the body seemed a bit bloated. And I'm looking and I know this woman. And I look at the casket, the baby casket. I see my brother. I look at the woman and I just scream. I was telling my aunt, my mother's sister, this story some years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago. And she said she remembers that scream. She said till today, she still remembers that scream. I mean, I scream. I think at my age, I was able to understand that my mom was gone. Man, I'm bawling, I'm crying. Then we go to the burial ground. I do the whole pouring the sand in the earth thing. Man, that thing still stays with me. It still does. It stays with me. Fast forward, my dad marries again. 3 years later, we're 8. She seemed like a nice lady. She stayed with us for about 7 years. At age 15, I'm in SS1. For those of you in boarding school, we have visiting days, and she usually comes and to visit us, and she doesn't come to visit us that weekend. It's very odd. That has hardly ever happened. We go. I call students used to have phones, sneaking phones. Then some senior students. So I called her. She said, no, she not worry that she's going to come. She apologized. I called my dad. He said, no, we should not worry. She will come. But the following week, my aunt came. My father's younger sister came, and she brought some food stuff. She brought some food stuff, and it seemed weird. Like, she just said, we should not worry. We should not worry. Third visiting day, the same thing happened. My aunt came. Then my uncle came to pick us on vacation day. Is that what it's called? Vacation day. And we go to my aunt's house, and they tell us the news that, well, my stepmom has left the house, and she says she's done with us. She's done with the marriage. Waiting to happen. Like, what's up? My dad comes that evening, and you could see he was not looking well. My sister and I are just like crying again. Because we had built a relationship with this woman. I'm not going to go into the details, maybe some other time, of all of that. It turns out that she was not who we thought she was. She left. A lot of diabolical stuff that I can't share right now, but my goodness, I'll say we almost died and God saved us. But from that age 15, in retrospect, my life changed. I was a really good student. Like, from that time on to university, I just gave up on a lot of stuff. My grades dropped. And even I did not know what I was doing. I stopped going to class. there was a time in SS2, all the girls in my class sent for me, and they had some form of intervention, and they called me and they're like, guy, this is not you. You better stop sneaking out of school. You're trying so hard to be a bad boy. This is not you. I was like, I beg, get out. But honestly, I'm not proud of. I growing up, I was really good, at least between top 5 to top 10 in my class, and I started getting to the bottom of the class. In university, I just did not care as well. Then in uni, I wanted to be like a bad guy. I wanted to be a bad guy, as I told you guys, and none of that was happening. And then my best friend, Percy, he had gotten born again just before we got admission, and I hated that because he will go to church. I was like, I beg you Christians, get that out of here. Like, I hated. So I never went to church in school. They'll come back looking at me weird, and I'll be like, then 100 level, 200 level. I think I got born again in my second year, which was 2010. In 2010, one of my best friends, Paul, who just got married, and we went to church together. And because of how boring the university in Bauchi was, church was fun. So I would occasionally go for like Thanksgiving service and all those things, right? So my friend and I know Sir Paul. We go to church that day, and I tell you, I think we were supposed to meet up with some girls. I was sitting with Paul. Paul was my best man, and he recently got married to someone I'm pastor now. Anyway, I was sitting there with Paul, and next thing I know, I'm at the altar. I'm bawling my eyes out. I can't remember what was preached. I kid you not. I can't remember anything that was preached. All I know, the guy's name was Sam. He was a former Bauchi student. It was a NIFES. He's preached. I'm bawling my eyes out on stage, and I'm like, Lord, forgive me for everything. I'm yours. And I'm telling you, from like July 2010 till today, I've been on that journey following God. The first year was okay, because the first year as a Christian was okay because I was now surrounded by Christians. My group of friends, God started to arrest us one after the other. And by God's grace, they gave me, a couple of resources. And because I was already a reader, I would just voraciously read the Bible. I was hungry for truth and knowledge. But I had kind of like deeper questions that nobody was answering. Questions about why Jesus, questions more like, what apologetics driven questions. Why is there truth? Why is Jesus the only way? What is truth? All these things, why are we not following Muhammad? And just, I had all these questions. I remember asking one day in fellowship, and I was laughed at. One question, people laughed at me. And well, that didn't deter me. I just kept on my search for knowledge. And thank God I now found apologetics resources. So I started to listen. It was podcasts then. I would listen, YouTube videos. I would study because I had all these questions that I felt nobody was answering. The first 5 years So not even the first, between 2010, yeah, between 2010 and 2014, God really shaped me. Like I read and read and read a lot. Books on theology. I did not even know God was training me for what I'm doing right now. Books on theology, on apologetics. I was just really wanting to learn. If this my faith is true, then there must be answers. There must be answers. And I'm telling you, it's the same thing for anybody here. The fact that nobody's answering your questions about Christianity, about Jesus, doesn't mean that there are no answers. It's either there are people who don't know or give bad answers. I want to encourage you to study, to go further, and just keep digging. Just like, I was introduced to a man called C.S. Lewis, who some of you know. I read his books, and I had friends too who were interested in those things too. So it was very, very encouraging. So we had our own form of the inklings that the C.S. Lewis and his friends had. And we would just exchange books, exchange ideas, watch arguments, watch debates, learn, and just share resources. My faith started to strengthen. It wasn't all, a smooth path. I had my down moments. I fell here and there, but I had brothers who held me up, not just in prayer, but literally like showing up for me. In 2015, I was doing my youth service in Abuja, National Youth Service call. For anybody who is watching that's probably not a Nigerian that doesn't know what NYC is. Just like many other nations, once you graduate from a tertiary institution, you are to serve your country for 1 year. For 1 year. So that's what NYC is. You are posted to another part of the country, basically. So I was posted to Abuja. Sorry, not Abuja. I was posted to Nasarawa, but I worked my way to serve in Karo, and Karo is on the border of Abuja. So I would literally leave home in Abuja and go for my CDS and stuff where I was working at the time in government secondary school. And then my dad came to Abuja. He wanted to buy a car, and we went to a dealership, one of the biggest dealerships in Abuja. He had chosen a Ford 2015 for that year because he was not living in Abuja. He was supposed to wire the money. It was a Friday. He was supposed to wire the money to the dealership on a Monday. Then I drive the car to go and meet him where he was, and I was really looking forward to driving that car. My brother, my sister, that Monday, Popsy, I called him. How far have you sent the money? No. Tuesday, how far have you sent the money? No. Wednesday, my stepmother calls again. Okay, so after my first stepmother left, she unfortunately died of breast cancer. My dad married again. That's another story. And my stepmother calls me and she's like, bro. She didn't say bro. She's like, guy, you need to call your dad. He's in Lokoja and he's not feeling well. I'm like, okay, he's on admission. I call him, Dad, what's happening? He said, well, yeah, his stomach ache. And I was like, stomach ache. Next thing she calls me and it's like, they are bringing your dad to Jos. Ambulance. I'm like, what is happening? He's saying I should not worry, that it's just that the hospital there cannot treat him. And I'm like, what? Well, he gets to Jos. Following up Friday, that Wednesday, I finally talked to him. He's like, Nenrot, are you going to come to Jos? I said, do you want me to come? He just said, don't worry. And that was the last thing I heard from my dad. Don't worry. I will call on Thursday, he was asleep. I'll call on Friday, he was asleep. Saturday, he was asleep. Sunday, I remember I was in church in House on the Rock, Abuja. I was praying, and I just felt so strongly in my spirit, you need to go to Jos. And I literally had nothing in my account. And I went home that day. I met my uncle. No, we were in the living room. My family here in Abuja. This is my mom's elder sister and her children. They're lovely to us. Anyway, we were sitting in the room. My sister calls me and she's like, bro, they're telling you to come to. No, she doesn't call me. She calls my uncle and she's saying, they said I should tell you to tell Nenrot to come to Jos. And I'm like, number one, why are you not calling me? I called her. I didn't even have money to call. I said, why are you not calling? She said, she's just passing the news along. I borrowed 200 naira from my cousin. I go and buy credit units to call. I'm like, who is going to tell me the truth if my father has passed or not? I call one of my uncles. He's actually my grand uncle. I call him and I'm like, uncle, please, I can take it. try to lie to me or anything. Is my father gone? And he says he honestly doesn't know. He has not heard any news. As we are talking, as literally as he's saying that, his daughter, my cousin, she screams out loud like it was a piercing scream. Her boyfriend was on the phone with her, and her boyfriend did not know that uh okay, he had told her that, oh, the man we prayed for in church just passed. He did not know that the man he was referring to was her own cousin. Yeah, my dad, God bless his soul. I learned he asked for the Holy Communion. My sister and I were praying for him for years. I think he was a good guy. He could have made some better decisions with some things, but no one is perfect, and I really, really do love him and miss him. It's 9 years since he passed. Next year will be 10 years, and I really hope I make him proud when we meet. But that's my testimony. We've spent some time here. I don't know if I should make this a part two. We should do a part two. But that's my journey. So to 2015. 2015, I fall into a very depressive state because I immediately become the father of the house, the leader of the house. I'm feeling all this weight because everybody's telling me, be a man now. You're now a man. You're not the father of the house. It's also confusing. I was still in youth service. Everything that my father and I planned, because I was supposed to go and do my master's, everything just, fell. And I really was confused, but I still had God, right? 9 months after his passing, I go for a youth program. I think we'll need to do a part two because I missed out the story of YWAP. We'll need to do a part two. Okay, please, before you go, please, I would really like you to subscribe so that you can encourage me to create more videos. Tell me in the comments, what kind of videos will you like to see? What kind of topics will you like me to cover? Everything from theology to apologetics, philosophy, business, entrepreneurship, ministry, parenting, marriage, everything that concerns men and growth, basically, spiritual growth, personal growth, all of that. So please let me know. It will really, really help me understand. God bless you. See you in the next video.